Welcome to the Prosperity Playground, the podcast where business meets energetics, strategy meets soul, and prosperity becomes inevitable. I'm your host, Anna Lozano, mom, founder, investor, mentor, and energetics in business expert. This is your weekly activation to rewire how you think and feel about wealth, success, and personal power, because it's not about working harder, it's about regulating deeper, aligning stronger, and receiving wider. You don't hustle for your future, you calibrate to your higher self. Join me weekly for high-level conversations with the world's most inspiring entrepreneurs, creators, and thought leaders. True prosperity isn't just about money. It's about alignment, freedom, expansion, and embodying your worth. Welcome to the playground. Let's build your most prosperous life. Welcome to the launch episode of the Prosperity Playground podcast. I am so grateful you're here. Today, I'm joined by Lori Harder, who's a powerhouse entrepreneur and has built 3 separate 7-figure businesses. She's the founder and CEO of Glōci, a beauty and wellness brand, and the host of Earn Your Happy, a top podcast with over 65 million downloads. As a best-selling author and transformational speaker, she's spoken to audiences of 10,000 plus and coached thousands through her events, courses, and memberships. Alongside her husband, Chris Harder, she runs high-level masterminds for entrepreneurs, and her brand and podcast are where FYES dreams come to figure it out, the place where entrepreneurs meet the messy middle, find mentors, and get the answers they need to go all in. In this launch episode, we dive into the story of Glōci and the power and pain of the pivot, rewiring our identity to embody personal power and prosperity, scaling with soul, and so much more. Enjoy this first activation. Lori Harder, welcome to the show.
I'm so excited to be here. We finally get to really drop in. I can't wait.
Oh, it's going to be so good. So I first heard about you probably about 15 years ago when I started building my network marketing business. And then you were such a huge supporter of when we were scaling Love Powered Co. I actually wrote down here episode 567 on Earn Your Happy, the power of affirmations as a business strategy. And then October 2020, we hopped on a Zoom call. I just knew like my sacral was buzzing. Yes, like fuck yes. I need to become one of your 54 investors. When I heard you were launching a product company and looking for investors. So now it's been 4.5 years. I'm just in awe of you, your grace, your vulnerability, your ability to pivot and remain this authentic woman that you are. So I wanted to share that at the beginning because I know you've been through so much and we're going to dive into that. But you are the embodiment of women supporting women. And so we're actually kicking off this project, this company, this business, this brand, the Prosperity Playground podcast with you. So welcome.
Oh my gosh. This is so awesome. This truly is exact what your podcast is about. Your brand is exactly what I have learned is the key to life, to everything, to relationships, to fulfillment, to happiness. Even within your marriage and your partner, it is so important that we have really deep connected relationships with other women and within our businesses, with entrepreneurial girlfriends. Like, I really believe entrepreneurial girlfriends are a business plan and a way of feeling really fulfilled in your life. So I love this.
And you have demonstrated that from the beginning. I feel like we kind of went through this era, maybe early 2010, where it was more, collaboration with quotes, but it really was competition. But I remember really seeing you and your girl tribe and your book when your book launched. And it was really that showing the path that you need women beside you. Everyone brings something unique to the table, collaborate, and there's so much growth, prosperity, expansion within that. So I love you.
Well, I can't wait to dive in. It's the best topic.
That's right. So first we're going to go to the Glōci story. So the moment you knew that you wanted to start a product-based company, And then the most important entrepreneurial lessons, from raising $2 million from 54 female investors to launching the company to navigating the pivot from Lite Pink to Glōci, and then now in growth mode. So I'd love to start there.
So I'll bring you back just to the moment where I knew I wanted to have a products company. I had done, you had mentioned some things in my background. I had done a lot of personal development events, a lot of personal development courses. We did a lot of, masterminds, coaching, even had the podcast, did large women's events in person. I had something called the Bliss Project for 8 years where 500 women from all over the world would come. And it was a 3-day event where it was like really deep dive. Picture like Tony Robbins meets deep connection in groups type of thing.
Yes.
And we just did that, but with all women. I was like, who are the women who are out here doing this? Because I do believe I get down with all personal development events, but I really felt like women needed a place to feel like we could share kind of like our sister wounds. Like, hey, I'm actually quite afraid of making girlfriends for these reasons. Like, I want to be your friend. I get jealous of these groups that are on the internet, except I'm actually really scared that you're going to stab me in the back or that I'm not enough, or I'm going to be abandoned. And I wanted to be that catalyst to bring women together, to be like, let's really talk about the way we feel about each other so that we can actually start getting past it. Because you can't move forward with someone without saying, this is what could trigger me, and this is what I'd like to work through. And now that we all know it, can we work through it together? Yes. So we can hold each other accountable. And that's really what that event was about. But, I spent in total, I think I was probably in that particular event space, personal development, that industry for about 10 years, along with the fitness industry. I started in the fitness industry and started personal development, but I would say a good chunk of that was 10 to 11 years. And around that time, I started to feel like I needed a bigger challenge. I loved what I was doing. Don't get me wrong. I got to cross off things off my bucket list that I didn't even know I would do in my entire life.
Can I just say, and that wasn't challenging enough, Lori.
Well, I'll say, you do something long enough. Don't get me wrong. It was all of those things that I said were the hardest thing that I've ever done up until I started getting to know how to do them.
Yeah.
And this is coming from a person who never graduated high school and never completed anything until I was about 27 years old, you guys. I tried to go back and graduate 2 different times, and because I didn't do it right, I didn't get a tutor or anything in math. It was I never completed it because I wasn't getting help. So this is how much I was under the idea that you had to do everything by yourself, is that even me trying to graduate high school, because I was homeschooled through high school, that was a big reason I didn't graduate, is because I had zero help. And I thought that I was supposed to be smart on my own. And I thought that I was supposed to learn on my own. Well, there are some things we need to learn how to learn and how we learn sometimes. And sometimes that takes groups of people who are like, oh, that happened to me too. Here's what I did. And I never understood this idea of community growth or help at all. I just had never seen it with my parents. I had never seen it, because I didn't go to school. I had never seen people asking for help because my family struggled alone a lot. And that was my story growing up. You're either smart or you're not. And I just really put myself in the category of I'm not. And so the things that I had mentioned, yes, I mentioned them like they were easy, but they were the hardest things in my entire life. And my story was I never finish anything. And I remember the first time I made myself finish something, it was, I was so sick and tired of my own shit, painfully tired, to the point where I was I'm 26 years old and I've never, ever done anything that's made me proud, because I can't finish it. And one day I was okay, I'm going to go on a 3-mile run, which I'd never done before. And I was I don't even think I can do that, but I'm going to prove to myself that I can. I'm not going to stop running. No matter what, come hell or high water, I'm not going to stop running. I'm going to prove it to myself I can finish something super hard. And so when I went around this lake, that was exactly 3 miles, I was I'm going to use this mantra, because I was just starting to really get into personal development. And I'm I'm going to use this mantra. I finish everything instead of, I learned that I was saying I never finish anything. So I kind of called out that story.
Yeah.
And I was okay, let's do an experiment today. And I don't know if you learn like this, but my life has been all of these little experiments like this that create little micro wins for me that have created the things that we shared in the beginning of this podcast and the things that I've done.
Yes. This is a huge like lesson right there to start is those micro moments eventually add up to all of the success, the accolades that I read in the bio.
That's all it ever is. That's all it ever is. So when people are like, how'd you do it? It's like literally this moment started all the other small moments that I'll probably share throughout the podcast. But so I said, okay, on this run, all I'm going to say to myself is I finish everything. So every step I started like a rhythmic, I finish everything with some music playing in my ears at the same time. And that was the first run that I don't think I'd ever even done more than a mile at that point. And for people who hate running, like I hated running, understand that 3 miles feels like that was something, unless you're like a murderer chasing me, I was like, I'll never run 3 miles. And so that was a breakthrough moment for me where I was like, if I can do that, what else can I do? Like, what else could I gamify? I started like having these moments of, okay, let's make this all a game and see like what I can start doing and what I can start fixing, because I really started to believe that was possible because I started getting into podcasts and books. And so, that takes me to, let's go now fast forward. Now that we know where I came from, let's go fast forward to where I said, okay, well, I had written a book. I was doing these events. I was crossing off things off my bucket list that were never even on my bucket list if we rewound to the girl who's just trying to run 3 miles. Yes. And so I had, one of the last things I had on my bucket list was, I had these large events up there and I did those for now 8 years. And then I wrote this book and I had this top podcast and I was like, I can't even fathom I'm doing this, but I want something that now feels like another really big challenge, because the one thing that people leave out of their happiness formula is that you actually have to be challenged weekly. Like, I don't even think it's monthly or yearly. Wow. I think that for a person who is this is not for everyone. I think it's for most people. I think it's actually really missing.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I think if you know you're a creator or a builder, I think that you are forgetting to put something challenging on your list every week. And I think that it's a big component of why we wake up and start feeling a little bored, or like, wow, I'm doing the things that I dreamt of, but maybe I'm not feeling as fulfilled, is because I really think that we need to be challenged in some way. And, if you think back historically, we were so challenged physically every day just for survival, that's what kept us, like there was no like, am I fulfilled? Am I not fulfilled? It's like, and so now when we don't have that, we have to create some form of challenge in our life, because it's like growth, expansion, pushing, is what I think makes us feel, rested in our soul, like deeply peaceful and rested in our soul is accomplishing challenge. And so I was like, I love products. I'm such a consumer. And I love going to stores. One of my favorite things used to be like going to grocery stores and going to Target and reading the labels and learning about new products and trying them. And like, if I would have been like 10 years forward, I think I would have been like an influencer who did like all the product reviews and like, all the Amazon, like, cause that was my jam. And so at any given time, my husband would walk into my office and I would have like 5 beverages on my desk. And so when I was thinking of different products that I wanted to make, there was a slew of different things that I wanted to do and businesses that I wanted to start. And I sat with it for about a year. And at the time, I was in a place where I was also very into fitness, but I was super healthy. Like I'm still very into fitness and I'm still healthy, but I wanted to find a better, a lighter beverage, like a lighter cocktail for women who still wanted to be able to have a cocktail, but maybe not have the ABV or the alcohol volume be as high and have the calories be less, like, and just have less sugar.
Yes.
And feel better. And I was like, there's nothing like that on the market. And there's this huge emergence of seltzers. Like it's when seltzers just started to explode at the very beginning. It was like the first year. I was like, there's nothing here for women, and for women who want to feel a little more elevated when they're having this during the summer or on the boat or whatever that looks like, or just want to have, 1 or 2 throughout the week, but something light, something for socializing. And I also saw a big category of women, mind you, this is like 2019 that this idea is starting to come. So this is like the very, very beginning of it, and pre-COVID. And we weren't as like woke with our health yet either. So people weren't like, you know what, I'm going to stop drinking or try all these non-alcoholic drinks. So I wanted to also create a non-alc drink for women who, like for me, on the days I didn't want to drink, because there were so many days I went places and people were like, you're not drinking? Like it didn't
Are
used to
you
be
pregnant,
cool.
Lori?
Exactly. I'm like, no, I just
Don't wanna
I
drink.
just actually don't want to have a cocktail during the week.
Yes.
And so I created a non-alcoholic version of this rosé spritz as well. So it was
Yes.
an alcoholic version and a non-alcoholic version. Well, as I started to think about the idea and pitch it to people, they were like, I would love this. This sounds amazing. And on the back of the can, I put 3 questions that were guaranteed to create a deeper connection with whomever you were with. Because I tried these questions out at my Bliss Project event for the last 8 years. And I'm like, I know that they're either going to get a friend, an answer, or a connection that they need from asking these 3 questions that are on the back of the can. And I asked them in different ways, and they would cycle through these different questions. And everyone I shared it with was like, hell yes, I want this too. And I was like, me too. Why doesn't this exist? So went on to raise money, which takes time. Oh my
Yes.
gosh. A
How long did
fundraise
that
especially.
take?
Fundraising the full 2 million was about a year and a half.
Okay.
And this was through the pandemic, you guys. Like, I remember I had someone who I looked up to so much. She's still one of my really good friends. And she sold her company for almost $300 million. And she had invested in like 20 other companies. And I remember she came after I had my first million in. And, you know, you're starting to build and figure things out. And during the pandemic, though, what a disaster to be building the company I was building during a pandemic. Because you'd be talking to a company that you think you're going to start with and the company closes down. Then you talk to another company and they're like, yeah, we're going to kind of stay open and we're not sure, but we're not sure if we're going to take startups because it's really risky for us. Because if we take you and we're stuck with your product, it costs us money. So you have to give us an extra 15 grand just as a down payment.
Yeah.
Like it was an actual disaster. We talked to over 300 companies.
Wow.
300.
Now,
Like,
let me just insert here. Was this your manifestation because you wanted a challenge, Lori?
I just, you know how you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And obviously, if I would have known all the things, I would have never done that.
You would have
Like, I
never,
would have
exactly. But the
I would
experience,
have never
the
started
skills.
that type of company, especially like there are things that I would say to, you know, this is lesson number 1. What I would say to a founder who is going to start something, this is the challenge. There is magic in the naivety. Magic.
Yes.
I actually don't want you to know too much.
Yes, that's
But-
the fuel. Mm-hmm.
Yes. But if you think you're going to start in a certain type of company, go figure out what the headwinds of that company are going to be. Meaning, if you are thinking like a cannabis or alcohol company, that's going to change that's going to change the headwinds of your business. Like, and it's going to change what type of fundraise you need to do. Like, instead of me raising $2 million, I would have had to raise 10 out of the gates.
Wow.
So like, you can't even start a company like this and feel like you're going to get anywhere if you had the goals that I had.
Exactly.
Without I would like on the reasonable side, 6 million minimum.
Wow. So the 2 million came from where?
2 million came from 54 different female
Right.
investors.
But no, the idea of the goal of raising 2 million, the amount.
So that came from what projections we had thought by talking to people who were in the industry, but I wasn't able to really access the people who were doing what I wanted to do in the industry.
okay.
So it's like people who had done projections for other people before. But what you don't know in those projections is maybe who they had connections to or who they had on the team or what you know what I
Right.
mean? There's so much info that was left off the table. And I'm glad I didn't know, because I honestly don't know if this next company would exist without that. And I will say, the first $1 million was not wasted. It took me a while to get over the fact that I put $1 million into a company that I was going to pivot. And now I had only $1 million to start this other company with, like from scratch.
Yeah.
And that took me a while to get over. What I wish I would have done there as well, this is lesson number 2, is while I was in the pivot, because what happened is during the pandemic and just learning more and more about the alcohol industry, the way that my cap table was, meaning the way that I had raised money from 54 women. And because it's an alcohol company, they needed a lot more information from the investors that some of my investors were not willing to give. And that's where it kind of ended. It was like, if they don't give it, I can't have this as well. So, these are all things you don't know till you're all the way down the road. Like there's data points you'll never get till you're down there. So people are like, if they're listening, they're like, well, that seems too scary to start because you could hit these walls. Yes, absolutely. That can happen. But that's why I wouldn't say majority, I'd say over 50 to 60% of companies, we could probably chat it right now to find out the stats,
Yes.
Don't launch as what they start as.
Yeah.
I wish I would have known that, because I think that the pressure that I put on myself and the fear around telling my investors that we were pivoting was like so immense. It kept me up at night. It was actually the worst place I've ever been in my life that I can remember, is like this pivot where it didn't have to be that way. It didn't. I could have gotten through that if I would have like talked to more product founders faster. But because they weren't in my circle, in my immediate circle right away, it was really tough to like be in this very painful spot and reach out to a founder I don't know and be like, hey,
This is what's going on. I
I'm
have
feeling
to say,
desperate, I'm struggling,
yes. And I have to say from my end, I remember getting the email of going into the pivot. And honestly, I was happy dancing behind the scenes because of what we witnessed with COVID, the movement away from alcohol for certain demographics. And
Totally.
so I thought right away, like, what an intentional, smart, brilliant pivot. Like, we're going to do this. It's going to be amazing. And wellness is you. So yes, you're the embodiment of women supporting women, but also of fitness and lifestyle. And it just suits you so perfectly. So I'm sure most of us, if not all, were happy dancing behind the scenes for you, but you took on this pressure that oftentimes it's self-inflicted, right? And we put ourselves through it.
So self-inflicted. And I'll say, I have 54 people on the investor roster, and there were a couple who didn't love it, but I think it was more personal reasons of them being like, well, is this going to fail then? And just wanting out of something that at the time maybe personally didn't feel good. And so, those were really tough conversations, but they were also necessary conversations for me, because as I started to learn, I'm like, okay, these are very important conversations as a founder that I need to navigate, because this is just the beginning of tough conversations that I'm going to be navigating in the future. Because literally I'm going into another fundraise, and I would never even now I know how to approach it. I know what to look for. I know what type of person that I'm looking for. Like, I just understand that playing field now. And also I also understand from the investor standpoint how that feels. So it's like, because we've invested in so many companies and so many have failed, and a few are still out there. And I just think that is like, the learnings are so rich within that. Like, even just being an investor in a company itself is like a mastermind in itself, learning about the ins and outs of business and what that is. But back to the pivot. I ended up, long story short, kind of hitting so many walls that we knew we had to do a pivot. And the logical thing was like, well, we were already talking about an upsell from Lite Pink, is what we had called the beverage company. And we were like, okay, well, I don't think people are going to be putting this on subscription, and we really need something that could go on a subscription model. So what's an upsell we could do? And I'm like, well, I'm a hydration packet junkie. I drink, 2 to 3 of them every single day. What if we did a better one? And so we had already started talking about that as an upsell. And so when we pivoted, I was like, I think we should go all in on this. And I think we should just make a way better way to take your supplements and your hydration packet all in one. And at that time, I was so burnt out as well with supplements and fitness stuff that I was like, I can't be popping, 5 to 10 different pills a day and taking all of this different all of these different things, these powders. And I was like, if I only did one thing for myself a day, what would it be? And that's really what we went on to create with Glōci, is we wanted something that made you feel lighter, hydrate deeper, get what you need in your system for feeling better, right? Like we just wanted that all in one packet, and that's really what we did.
Oh, so good. So take us to the now, growth mode, scaling. What are some of the marketing and brand awareness strategies that you're like, okay, this is working? If someone's in growth mode who's listening, maybe it's a strategy they can start testing out.
Well, let me just tell you, products and digital products and what I was doing, totally different.
Yeah.
Two completely different worlds. Products are really winning through TikTok, UGC creation, something called whitelisting, where you get to, as a company, kind of script out ads for people, but people think that they are like the person saying, hey, this is, a product that I love, blah, blah, blah. And they usually do feel that way. It's usually somebody who loves the product. But what's happening is now companies are getting so good with like giving people sales scripts, essentially, that you're leading them down this emotional journey. And then what's happening is the company is then boosting that ad on their pages. Okay. So it's very much a game of content. How much content can you get out there from content creators on TikTok, on Instagram, YouTube, podcasts, whatever it is, and kind of watching that lift on your site, on Amazon, and whatever other channels you can be on. Amazing. That's what's working for the big companies.
So product and coaching. So coaching space, personal growth space, what would you say for the coaches building businesses, marketing strategies, brand awareness strategies?
Oh my goodness. As much as you don't want to hear it, you need to get really good. You need to figure out how to get good on social media or get eyeballs in some sort of way. Okay, so for people who are like, oh my God, I'm never going to be good on social media. Okay, get really good at going on podcasts, but making darn sure you have a call to action and a freebie that's really a good fit for that audience, where they're going to go and you're going to capture that email or you're going to capture their text number. We have to get people on lists. We have to get people either on an email list or a text list, or you have to be really great on social media and also get them onto a list from social media with a mini chat. Yes. So with some sort of, CTA, and that needs to be in your weekly social media plan. Yeah. So a lot of like edutainment is working. So if you can capture eyeballs with that like entertaining education of trending things, but making it your own like POV from a trending reel, and getting some content that can also teach underneath that. Yeah, social media has completely shifted in the last few months, completely shifted now that we're going with that TikTok type of algorithm where it's super interest based. And we have to figure out how to get really good at getting eyeballs and then converting them onto a list.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. So to finish off our Glōci chat, because then we're going to pivot to mindset. What are you so excited about right now?
With Glōci?
Yeah.
I'm really excited about the next phase of growth, because this fundraise means that we have figured out what we want to put money into and to really scale it. So I'm very excited to scale, because the first year was honestly launching. Do people like this product? Yeah. Is this catching on? Are people reordering? Do we need to think of another product fast? Do we need to change the flavor? Like, how's the branding? Is the name catching? Is it, what's even being said? So first year it's even confusing on where you should be and what you should be doing. I'll tell you, especially being in my space, it was like so many women's events wanted product. And while that was awesome, we just did not see any ROI from that yet. Now, I think when you're a much bigger company, things like that, like just guerrilla marketing and getting it out everywhere, are huge. But first year, that's not a good plan for us, because we need whatever we're doing to turn into dollars, because as I told you, we only had that million do formulation, roll out, do branding, make this a brand that already looks like it's big in the world. And that costs money, and team costs money, and social costs money, and shoots cost money, and reformulating costs money, and all of the things or formulation that you have to do to get to that point. So first year was really like, foundation, does this message work? Oh, we just learned like we gave a ton of money to this event and that event and that did not work for us. So where do we need to, re-put this money? Like just first year is insane. First year is just like navigating through waters you have no freaking clue. So I think that, I've gotten so much respect for anyone who makes it even past the first year. I'm like, oh my God, I would never give it back. I'm actually so obsessed. But for anybody who's been on this journey or about to go on this journey, I just want to like set your sights for like first year is just figuring it out. Yeah. You are just trying to figure out who your people are, what the messaging is, getting your team dialed in. We cycled through so many different agencies who were like, okay, big promises, no delivery. Yes. And that's how we spent our first year. And now, at the end of the first year now, we're really getting dialed in. We're on a super small team again, because that's just what's working for us.
There's a co-founder.
I have a co-founder now, which is awesome because she's been so great to bounce ideas off of. And it's been, it's like been awesome now that we've passed like the major trying to figure stuff out.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited for the future. I have to say though, when we launched Love Powered Co., we launched with $60,000 and holy shit, that does not go far. I think month one, we burned through it all again, hiring agencies, hiring the contractors, the illustrators, and then we're like, now what? We got it.
I'm so glad you understand.
fully, and I get it. And so this is entrepreneurship, is business school. It's personal growth. It's absolutely everything, and it's fucking hard, and it's amazing, and we wouldn't trade it for the world. So if you're on the fence, even thinking about it, just leap in. It'll be worth it, and you learn so much along the way. You build your community, relationships, and this is what life is all about.
It really is. And, I think that you are going to just meet these people in your life that you don't meet really expanded people until you are expanding yourself. And I think that like recognizes like, and it's just the truth. Like the amount of women that I've gotten to, the amount of people, men and women, that I've gotten to get in my life through this journey, they light my brain on fire in the most fun, expansive ways. Like where you're like, that is the type of like conversation and connection that I really want in my life. It's the people who challenge you, but they also push you forward and pull you up, and they see a version of you that you can't yet see. And it's not that I didn't have that in my life before. I did have it throughout when I was growing, but I think it's important that we always have those people who are like, no, there's more. There's more. You can do more. I see you. You can do more. And I think both are important, and I think sometimes it's great to have those girlfriends who just don't give a crap what you're doing, that you can go have a glass of wine with and be like, can we just never talk about business again?
Yes. But I have to say, like,
it's vital.
Yes. And you and Chris, I mean, you guys create the rooms, you create the tables for this to be cultivated and to grow and to expand. And that's something that I knew of you from the beginning, is like, get in the room, get at those events, get to the masterminds. I actually met someone, I have to share with you, who lives in the village that I'm in Mexico, who didn't know who you were. I'm like, how do you not know who Lori Harder is? And then she ended up joining your mastermind, your elite mastermind.
Oh my gosh, that's insane.
Such a small world. And again, it's that curated room of high-level individuals, high-level conversations that supports your growth, and having those people that see you in the moments you don't see yourself and you don't know where to go. And there's this like, fog in front of you, and having the community, the coach, the support to move you through those moments is huge.
I agree. I don't know how people do it without it. Like, I would not be able to do it.
Yeah. So I'm going to switch gears to mindset, because this is something you've talked about forever. You shared publicly, you grew up in a small town, homeschooled, restrictive religion, but somehow you always knew you were meant for more. You're going to be successful. I want to dive deep into some of the main subconscious blocks that you had to rewire in order to grow 3 separate 7-figure businesses, because those had to come up in order for you to hold the success, hold the recognition, hold the wealth. So what were those things for you?
Oh, there was a lot. There was some deep religious stuff around money being bad. There was, again, religious stuff around I grew up in this religion. So it was very much, 3 times a week I went to church, and then we went door to door in between that. So like hours and hours and hours and hours every single week, really spent in this religion my entire life. And not allowed to associate with people outside of the church. So very much no other mindset was anything or was happening except for what I'm sharing with you. And it was like you were meant to be really humble. So you weren't allowed to like talk about yourself in what you were, I never heard anyone say like what they were good at or what they were doing. It was really rare I heard of any like entrepreneurs or making money was not good. I remember we had gotten a new car and it was like frowned upon. This was a very small town.
Yeah.
So the religion, like I know this particular religion in bigger cities was a little different. I think they would have lost members if they were doing this, but because it was such a small town, you're able to kind of isolate, and it got even more, it was just a little, very restrictive. And so I remember we had gotten this new car and it was like, oh, that's not good. Like that's bad. Like you didn't need to get that. It's too flashy. And, so this is like in my psyche, like, oh, money is bad. It's the root of all evil. Like you need just enough to get by. Most people in the congregation were working 2 different jobs so that they could go out and service during the day and make sure that they could get to the meetings and all of these different things. So I really had to get over thinking that money was bad. And I thought that the more that you were struggling, the more chances you had to be saved. And so like to me, when my nervous system started to like be like, oh, I'm safe, I'm like, I have this money, I can take care of things, I would sabotage things, or I would spend it all, or, just crazy things with money, because it was like I was just rejecting it. And I felt really guilty, and I felt really ashamed around my family with money at first too. So that was a really big one. Yeah. The being seen was so huge. I worked through, I remember going to a Jack Canfield event, and they had written down like, what's a big block for you? And I'm in I think I'm like 30 at the time or something, 30, 31, no, maybe 32. And I had written down like, I can't like own my power. Like it's really hard for me to stand in my power and be in a room and tell people what I do. Like I remember I was even doing some big things at the time, and I could know someone for months or a year, and they're like, wait, you won all these competitions, you've never said anything. I'm like, I'll never say anything.
Wow.
Well, guess what, Anna? That doesn't get you anywhere in this industry. Yeah. Like when I would meet people who had the ability to help prop me somewhere, they wouldn't know that I had any skill set, capability, or anything, because I would never tell them. I would like hide everything. So that was holding me back so much, because you actually have to brag. Like you have to brag about what you're good at around people who can help propel you forward. Yeah. And so I was at this event, and I had written down like, I can't own my own power. And so they did this exercise where you had to say like an I am statement with people around you, except it was like in this room. So let's pretend it was, I'll say it's you, Anna, and my other friend, Lindsay. They put us in groups of 3. So, if it was me going first to like work through this thing that I was having, I wrote down what's the opposite of like I feel like you can't own your power. It was I am powerful. So my I am statement was I am powerful. And so it would be Anna, you on my left ear, my friend Lindsay on my right ear, both your hands on my shoulders. And you would say to me 3 times, Lori, you are powerful. Lori, you are powerful. Lori, you are powerful. And then I would have to scream it in front of the entire room. How embarrassing, right? Like, just what a nightmare.
Yes.
For someone who can't own their own power, screaming, I am powerful
Wow.
in front of a whole room of people with these two girls on my shoulders. So I start yelling it, and they're like, you have to say it louder, because I'm like a church mouse saying, I'm like, I am powerful.
Right.
The second I start to say it louder, like my body literally collapses to the floor. Like, this is how deep this goes, you guys. Like, I can't make this up. Like, I was like, just get me off this stupid stage. This is the last thing I want to do. I'm like, okay, Lori, all you have to do is yell it. You don't have to embody it. Just get the F off here. Like, just do it. I couldn't even say it, because at such a cellular level, it was such deep rooted shame. And like, that's what we grew up with, right? So I had to do that exercise, like, I don't even know, 5 times to get to that place, because it was so deep. I was breaking down and so shamed and so embarrassed. And so by the end of that weekend, because we did so many things like that, like I started to just have this realization of like, that was the opening, right? You don't heal everything that weekend. There is some stuff I do believe that can just be like healed really quickly like that. But that was such a deep awareness for me around, I have to do so much work around owning my power. What does that look like? And so kind of like we talked about in the beginning, all these micro moments, it would be things like people complimenting me and me not, rejecting it or saying, oh, yeah, thanks. Well, yeah, well, you're good at this or you're good at that. It was like, no, I'm going to own that. I'm going to embody it. I'm going to put my shoulders back. Okay. Step one, all of these little moments of I meet someone and maybe I tell them, oh yeah, I'm a speaker. I speak on stage in front of 500 women. I have this incredible podcast. It's actually a top 25 podcast. Like, I would have never said stuff like that. Now I try to say it all the time, because people move the needle for you, and it's not going to move on your own. And so it was just like all of these micro moments that have turned into maybe having people listen right now and go, wow, how does one even do that? That's how you do it.
That's like start. That's huge. Just thinking of where you were and like to what you've created and who you are and who you embody today. Like night and day, but it takes work. So sometimes we want to outsource the work, and no, it's the inner world that we have to start with. Don't worry about the next 5-10 years. Focus on now, focus on that next step. So if we look at money specifically, because that's another huge one, like, holy shit, girl, that is a lot of reprogramming. So naturally you start making money, you're on magazine covers, and the self-sabotage kicks in. So what worked from the money conversation to rewire, reprogram that?
We started doing, the first book we read was T. Harv Eker's Millionaire Mind, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And we did that book. We did not read that book. We did that book.
You got to scream stuff again.
I remember like reading it, we read it in bed together, my husband and I, but I started reading it, I believe, first on an airplane. And I was like having these huge moments of like, I have this money story from my parents and from growing up. And we all do, right? And no blame on my parents. They had their money story from their parents, and they didn't have the tools that I have in this book right now, is what I was thinking. So thankfully it was like, oh my God, all I could see was everyone's money story around me. And then, they talk a lot about who's around you too. And I was like, oh Lord, I have such lack mentality around me. And that really started opening me up to who is around me. Like, if I'm the sum of these people in the way that they think, now some people are going to hate on this, but you're the sum of the bank accounts you're around too. Yeah. So if your bank account is low, I hate to tell you this, it's probably because everyone's bank account around you is low. And I'm not saying like, oh, you need to be around rich people to get rid of those friends. But I think the bank account is usually correlated to how you're feeling around them, because money is just energy. Yeah. The more the better way that you think, and the more that you treat yourself well, and the more that you treat people well, I think that's just, you become more of a magnet for money, because it just amplifies it. But with that said, it just became blaringly clear that I was like, I need a different group of people around me. Like,
so that was step one.
That was step one, for sure. So reading the book, doing the book, saying it out loud, getting in rooms with people who had money. And I didn't care if I had to pay to get in those rooms. I paid for so many rooms with money I didn't necessarily have yet. And whatever money I made also went back into personal development. I just threw myself into personal development, to coaching, to getting into masterminds. And that's really what changed my life.
I just remember driving, I think I was living downtown Toronto and driving and being like, I have a millionaire mind.
Yes. Yes.
Such a
Totally.
such a good book. And for me, that thing was Bob Proctor's You Were Born Rich. Like that for me
Oh,
was my awareness of like, holy shit, you have deep rooted programming around lack and
yep.
hustle and all of that. And that's when the work began. Lori, this has been so good. Before I move into my final questions, do you have anything else that you'd love to add?
I just, if somebody's listening to this, it's because they have a big vision.
Yeah.
And I think that okay, I'm going to share something that rocked my world, and it's rocking my world. I heard it last week, and it's just like such a shifter for me. I was talking to a woman who does not have any problem with money mindset. Let me just tell you, she's doing wonderful out in the world. And, I had asked her, she had said she had a high performance coach for the past 10 years. And I was like, okay, what does that mean? Tell me more. And she said, well, the way that this performance coach works is that every 48 hours, I have to say one thing that I'm going to do that's the most needle moving thing for that 48 hours. You guys, this is every 48 hours
Wow.
during the week for the last 10 years. Picture this. So what's the most needle moving thing that you are going to do in the next 48 hours for your business to make money? Not just like, oh, or whatever. And it's a performance coach on our business.
Yes.
Imagine having one in your life, in your relationship, whatever.
Yes.
What's the most needle moving thing you can do to make money in the next 48 hours? What will you need to do? She gives them the one thing. If she doesn't accomplish that one thing, she better have a darn good excuse with for the next 48 hours to get it done, or she doesn't get to work with this coach. Like
Whoa.
you're done.
You're done.
So you're done. So who do you have to be in order to work with someone for 10 years and give them the most needle moving thing? And she's like, here's what it did for me. That's probably scaring the shit out of people right now thinking about that. It scared me, and then it excited me. I was like, what if I can kind of do this for myself while simultaneously finding someone who could be this person for me to hold me accountable? Here's what you don't realize is that when you're doing something of that caliber, what's happening is you're letting go. You don't have the luxury of overthinking.
Yes.
You guys, overthinking is a luxury, and having anxiety about it is a luxury, because do you know what I mean by luxury? It means that you have something that's keeping you're able to quit on yourself and be comfortable still. Yeah. You're able to not do the dream, and you're able to be comfortable. So I know you're like, well, I'm not comfortable. Well, something about you is actually comfortable in the pain of where you're at. So it's really looking at yourself and saying, okay, if I really was committed to my dream, and if I really was committed to helping my family, if I really was committed to getting out of this place of where I'm at and me sabotaging my relationships or myself because I'm just kind of like, it's my programming and I'm just kind of like here, I don't know how to get out of it, then you would start really thinking about what I'm telling you about one needle moving thing that would either change, get you to your goal every 48 hours, and stop overthinking it. Because what happened with this coach is he's like, what? We just need data. He's like, why are you thinking about it? He's like, just try it. Like, go try it. We need the data. What is there to think about? Well, they may not like me. Who cares? What do you care about if this person likes you or not? Like, what's going to be the problem? Why are you even spending time here? Like, go get the data, go learn from it. The people who actually are doing the same thing respect you. They respect the ask. They respect, the fact that you're following up for the 20th time. They respect the fact that you're moving forward. And all the other people do not matter at all. Like, it actually doesn't matter. And so I just really thought about it in terms of like, wow, it is a luxury to be able to overanalyze, worry about what people think. Do they not like me? Do they like me? It's such a trap. It's all made up. It's such self-sabotage. None of it matters. If you really, really care about your goal, about your family, and about moving forward, and about being the woman you came here to be, you'll stop overthinking everything and just take an action.
Take an action. So good. And let's call it collecting data. That's what you're doing. Yeah. And that takes off all the pressure and the stories. Mm-hmm. And if that thing you choose maybe doesn't work out, Try something else. Huge.
You'll be trying something else in 48 hours.
Exactly.
Like there's no downtime. And I that's what I couldn't get over. I was like, wait, there's literally no downtime. It's just like more data, more data, more data. And you're gonna win like that. And let me tell you, this woman has won multiple times over. And it was just like mind blowing.
So good. Okay, 3 final questions because we could talk forever. No, I'm not going to say that because this podcast launches post Pink Skirt Project where I get to see you.
I know. I'm so excited.
But future self questions. So Lori Harder, 20 years from today, what wisdom does she have for Lori today?
Oh my God. Literally, I hope it's the same thing I said. Like the only thing you're going to regret is what you didn't do. Not even the screw ups that you had, because, I look at what I told you was the most challenging point in my life. And without the fears, the anxiety, what I thought was the end of the world, having to disappoint people, allowed me to meet a version of myself that I really, really, for the most part, really love who I am. Like, I feel so grateful to be this version of me who has a backbone and knows who I am and my purpose and what I'm here for and the intentions that I do things with. And I just think that's you all need to meet the woman that you came here to be. And I think that's the only regret you'll have is if you don't get to meet her.
So good. And what are you feeling deep, deep gratitude for right now?
Oh my gosh, for just what I get to do. Yeah. We just got off of our mastermind, an intro mastermind call to a new mastermind we put together. And Chris and I were like, wow, I don't know if it took this long in my life to really be so rooted in the fact that I get to be here on a podcast with you, Anna. I got to be on calls with entrepreneurs who want to grow. I get to grow a company and I get to have the problems and I get to have the challenges. And I know that sounds like, oh my God, so messed up, because life it is really hard. And there are plenty of days that I'm like, can I still do this? I don't know if I have the capacity. But then the good days are so much better than any day that I could have fathomed, that those days are worth it.
So beautiful. When I have the nerves kick in, this is a new brand, new project. I'm like, I get to do this. There's no fear. We get to do this. And I was telling my daughters, I'm like, how cool that way you get to think a thought. We get to feel the frequency of it, take an action and birth it into reality. Isn't that cool?
Just create whatever we want.
We get to do this. Everyone does, not just you and I, but everybody gets to do that. That's living. And
and just one last thing, I feel like what we don't realize is we're all just really trying to feel a different range of emotions. Yeah. And so when people feel bored or they feel, anxious or depressed, let me tell you that action, even though it's a different type of, even though yes, you still feel anxiety, it's a different type of anxiety and actually makes you feel very alive. Yes. So I'm telling you, you'll never feel more alive than when you're about to step on a stage and you don't want to do it. And you're like, oh my God, I guess sometimes my only good thought is this is better than being super depressed and not knowing how to get out of that hole. I'm like, okay, I don't feel dead. My heart is pounding. I am alive.
I am alive.
Exactly.
I love that. Oh, and final question, Lori, what's your definition of prosperity?
Definition of prosperity. I would say just, I feel like the whole point is getting to do what you want with the people that you want. But I really believe in making sure you're challenged. I also think being prosperous in challenges that grow you continually, so that you never feel pointless in your life.
Yeah, beautiful. And what are you launching? Where can people find you? Where do you want us to go?
My whole life is podcasting and Glōci right now. So truly Glōci is my number one. So you can go to GetGlōci, GetGlōci.com, and you can go check it out there, because I feel like it's the one thing that every entrepreneur should be doing for themselves. Because these foundational habits are so huge, you guys, and it's such a game changer for your skin, for bloat, for feeling better, for hydration. So that's where you can go.
I love that. Lori Harder, thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you forever.
I'm so grateful for you. This was so much fun, and I'm so excited for your podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for joining me on today's episode of the Prosperity Playground podcast. If this convo sparked something in you, be sure to follow the show on Apple Podcasts so you never miss your weekly activation. If you enjoyed the conversation, please rate and review. Your feedback helps us reach more souls just like you who are ready to calibrate to their most prosperous life. Know someone who needs this frequency boost? Share the episode to Instagram and tag me @_Anna Lozano so we can grow our energetically aligned community together. And please remember, true prosperity is about alignment, freedom, expansion, and embodying your worth today. See you on the next activation.